4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great.
Hello, BYWG Tribe. Here's a quick peek at our supplement, product, and book of the month for March 2020. At the end of the podcast, I will spend a few minutes going into further detail, so we encourage you to listen to the end. The supplement of the month for March is Stress Rebalancer. This is our unique, specially selected blend of adaptogens, vitamins, herbs, and amino acids that will help counteract the negative effects of stress on your body. The 10% discount code for the month of March is Stress Relieve 10, that's lowercase. Our book of the month is F Your Feelings, Master Your Mind, Accomplish Anything, and Become a More Significant Human by Ryan Munsey. Our product of the month is Kavaplex from True Kava. Our listeners will receive 20% off using the code, and it's all capitals, capital B, capital Y, capital W, capital G, capital K, capital A, capital V, capital A, BYWG Kava. It is very likely in the month of March we'll have both Ryan Munsey, the author of F Your Feelings, and Cameron George from True Kava on the podcast, so keep an eye out. All the links, discount codes, and special offers to the product, supplement, and the book will be listed in the show notes and iTunes, posted on social media, in our weekly newsletter, and on our website at www.beyondyourwildestgenes.com at the Listen Now tab. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Beyond Your Wildest Genes podcast. I'm your co-host today, Dr. Mike Akinfora. Today's interview, which was amazing, is with Ryan Munsey. Ryan is the author of F Your Feelings and the co-founder of the Better Human Project. Ryan Munsey is also a sought-after thought leader who specializes in high performance and the development of both individuals and organizations. He personally coaches Olympic and professional athletes, special forces operatives, Hollywood celebrities, and leading entrepreneurs and C-level executives while speaking and hosting leadership workshops around the world. Folks, I got good news and bad news. The good news is it was an absolutely amazing interview. The bad news is we only got half of it. So it was too good to not post. So we're going to pick it up where Ryan and I are talking about values, and we are going to have the talking points to that on values, action, leadership in the show notes. So I hope you enjoy this abbreviated version of our interview with Ryan Munsey. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, we do that with the office staff once a year because we have new staff. We hire new staff, and they go on to their careers, and we want their values, their personal values, to align with our company values. And it's really important that they understand that, and then going forward to develop those values. And I say to people that want to make change, most of the time people come into a chiropractor's office, it's because they're in pain. And I look at it as a much bigger picture is, what was it, Tom Landry, a coach gets you to do the things you don't want to do to allow you to become the person you want to become. And that's how I look at when someone comes to see me. When I get these 300-pound guys, they're like, I bent over to pick up the mail and my back went out. Like, is that really? Like, how heavy was that mail? Like, what'd you order? We need to look at the totality of what somebody's doing, see if those values match their actions. And for most people, as you know, when you work with them, they actually have no idea what their values are.
Right.
It's a great exercise to do.
It really is. It's invaluable. I mean, it serves as a filter and a screening process for opportunities that come our way. For people that, may or may not be in our lives. And again, for every decision and choice that we make, whether it's a micro decision throughout the day or a macro big life decision. And having those to serve as sort of your right and left boundaries, it really does help you kind of stay on track, as cliche as that sounds.
It really does. And these are, so the values, how do we say this? The values are the capstone on the pyramid. But it's everything that you do underneath that supports those values. So you can't have a capstone if you're not supporting it. It just can't be. It doesn't exist. So you have to support your values with your actions. And your actions are, let's say one of your values, my top value is health, because I didn't have health. I had my daughter, who we talked about, she didn't sleep through the night for 5 years. So I was 300 pounds. Had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, everything. And I realized that, my God, I'm not going to be around to see her play sports, to be her best self, if I don't take care of myself. So it didn't matter that I was making great money, that I loved doing what I was doing. I was so tired and so cratered by not sleeping that I was truly, truly, truly unhealthy. And it was a switch that flipped for me, and I realized I've got to make this a priority.
Yeah, I love hearing stories like that, and that's so powerful, not just for you, but when we think about that from your daughter's perspective too. When I get to talk on leadership, there's two statements that I always make. It's lead yourself first and lead always, and you did both of those things in that example. And when our actions align with our values, we are, whether we know it or not, leading always. And if people have kids, then you'll understand immediately the importance of this, because kids learn more from what we do than anything we can ever say. And what you showed your daughter in making that choice was that family and health and being there and being able to show up for her meant more to you than money or work, right? And just think about how many people are demonstrating the opposite to their children. And she may not realize that then. She may not even realize it now. But when she's mid to late 20s, going into 30s, starting a family of her own, she's going to start to think about those things, and she'll realize that. And those are things that, like, you can never go back and undo or change those things. And so maybe that's an unintended consequence. Maybe it's very conscious in the moment for some people. But leading yourself first, leading always. Those are. I think those are inextricably linked to actions being aligned with values.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to talk about the book, but you just keep bringing up these nuggets that I want to go through for people. And what we found is, as an aside, the more real that we are on our podcast, the more the message gets out there. It's not, it's not Mike sitting up on high and telling everybody, you should do this, you should do that. I go through the same struggles, the obstacle. The obstacle, Ryan Holiday, the obstacle is the way. Like it's these are put in our path. So my daughter, Point Pleasant Beach, you were down here. It's a very small town, 3,000 people or so, and she got to play some really good soccer down here, and she's like, I want to challenge myself. This is at the time she's a freshman in high school. I want to challenge myself. I want to try out for the Olympic training program. I'm like, okay, go for it. Let's see what happens. The worst thing's going to happen. So she does that. She does really well. She then decides, I want to play at an even higher level than I'm playing now. And I'm like, all right, well, there's only like 2 programs in the state where you can play, and those girls are playing at a Division I level. You would really be coming against the competition of the hardest competition in the country. So she tries out and makes it, and we're traveling 150 miles round trip. After 2 years of doing this 4 days a week, she number one, she was the best player down here. She goes up there and she's just another player. She plays behind a girl that's committed to University of Pittsburgh, Boston College, University of Vermont, like high Division I players.
Yeah.
And she has a choice. Ryan, we're talking a 15 and 16-year-old. So she has a choice. She gets knocked down again and again and again. And she has a choice. Do I quit or do I push forward? And she, in credit to her, she kept pushing forward. And it allowed her to realize in this 2-year period that she could play with anybody. She's
Mm-hmm.
on the field. She wasn't getting a lot of playing time, but when she was on the field, she just made it happen and still didn't get a lot of playing time. So she says, I realize this, Dad, that I don't want to play Division I soccer. I want a full college experience. This little school down in Virginia really likes me. I'd like to go and visit. And from there, she had the intelligence, emotional intelligence, to say, I want a full college experience. I want a good coach. I want to be near the beach. I want it warm. And I want a program that's going to have my degree. And this school checked it all off for her. And soccer was the vehicle that allowed her to do it. But the bigger picture was, just like you said, it was a line in the sand. Like most kids, we see it all the time. Most people, once they get knocked down once, they turn around and walk away.
Yeah, and that's there's a lot in there, and some overlap with my high school experience as well. And I think for your daughter to be able to realize now that she has that strength, that she can get knocked down, that she can get benched or get turned down or get overlooked, or however that plays out, or whatever that narrative might be for somebody else, for her to be able to draw on that for the rest of her life. And I get to work with a lot of current and a lot of former athletes. And, one of the things that over my 15, almost 20 years now of helping people, there's something that we learn from sports that carries over into every other area of our life. And even people with military experience, I noticed this as well. But there's coachability. People are used to being coached. They're used to being a part of teams. They're used to being, they're used to competing. They're used to people actively trying to prevent them from carrying out their objectives. Right? Like if you're playing soccer, there's 11 other people on the other team trying to stop you from putting the ball in the net.
Yes.
If you play basketball, there's 5 other people trying to stop you at all times. And then so when we get into business, if you're an entrepreneur or in the professional world, there's nobody stopping you, physically stopping you from picking up the phone call and making the call that you need to make. Like it's really easy because there's no active opposition other than yourself. And I think, in kind of relating this to what we're talking about is, with mental mastery and being able to pursue your goals, when people come from a background of sports and they realize, like, I can get knocked down, I can take these hits, I can keep going, there's just such a resolve that gets built into us as individuals that I think I don't think that it can be overstated how important that is. And I see that time and time again with entrepreneurs and business owners that I work with who are former athletes, and they just bring that mindset to the rest of their lives. The other thing that I picked up on that I thought was really cool is, you mentioned how long the drive is to, back and forth. And, I played travel soccer when I was in high school as well. And
Sure.
We didn't have to drive that far, but our practices were probably 45 minutes to an hour away from, where we lived.
Yep.
And when I was in high school, my mom worked an hour from our house in a different direction. So this is something that, again, like I had very little conscious awareness of this at the time. I mean, I was, your typical 15 to 18-year-old guy who, didn't really give much thought to what his parents did to make things happen for them. But as I look back, my parents' actions showed me what was important to them. And I have learned so much about, how to show up for the people who are in my life that I care about. My mom would drive an hour to work, drive an hour home from work, take me to soccer practice an hour across town, wait, and then drive me home. And, we'd be getting home at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And like, I mean, that's a lot of sacrifice,
Yes.
For a parent. And, I'm forever grateful for that, both for what they actually did in the moment, but also for the lessons downstream from that. And, again, these are just touching on what we said earlier about leading always, and kind of that impact that you make through the way you show up and what you show the people in your lives about what matters to you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. My health is number one, family's number two. Without my health, I don't have my family. I could have made millions of dollars. I can have the wealth. I could have all of those things, but without that health, number one. And number two, I want to spend time with my family. Like I just heard the other day that your children will spend 93% of their time ever with you by the time they're 18. So no matter how long they live and you live after that, 7% of the time combined. So that's how important, like that, again, that's life changing to me. Like I have friends of mine who have kids the same age, and like you see the kids going out and into the world, and like, oh my God, we only have this time with these humans.
Yeah.
And if I'm out chasing all these other things, I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to balance this, my wife says it all the time because she's way smarter than me. That the time spent with her driving, having meals together, her away games were down in Virginia, Boston, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Like that time spent is an investment in the relationship with your children.
Yeah. There's, I forget the person who's put this out there, but, and I'm sure it has a name, but I don't even remember what it is, but there's a document that you can print out, and it has squares, and it's supposed to represent, like, one square is supposed to represent one day.
Okay.
And there's, one square for, the average number of days that we live. So like whatever our life expectancy is now. And so, if you're 40 years old, then you go ahead and you color in the first 40 years worth of squares. Sure. And then it's supposed to visually represent the amount of time on average that you would have left. And every single one of those squares is a day. And it's just a reminder that, however you choose to spend your day is like you are trading one of your days on this planet to do that thing.
100%.
And, on those, like, that's a very visual reminder for us as individuals. But then another friend of mine has daughters, and his oldest daughter, I forget exactly how old she is now, but maybe 5 or 6. And he calculated the number of weekends that they have until she goes away to college.
Absolutely.
And so if you've got, 50 weekends in a year, and she's going to be in college in, 10 years, then he's got like 500 weekends with his daughter. And he's looking at it in that way. And he's like, how do I want to spend this time with her? And, we don't have kids. And so I'm not used to thinking about it in the terms of, time with my kids. Sure. But like for people who do like that, I mean, and everything you're saying, I mean, that's just, those are such powerful reminders. And if that is a value of yours, then it's even more powerful. And it's such a great check-in with, okay, this is what I said is important to me. How do I set up my days? How do I make sure that, I can be there and spend my time doing these things with these people?
It's truly, and that is self-actualization, but it's also, that is a successful life. Yeah. Like that you're an active participant in your own life, but also in the lives of your family. That's success. And that will flow, success will flow not just to you, but through you in everything that you do going forward. And I see this in business. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And I think one of the words that comes to mind is intention, right?
Yes.
And like you say, like to be an active participant, we have to be intentional about this, and it requires forethought and planning. And, that's just something that the busier we get, the easier it is to not do that. But I would argue the more important it becomes to do that and to be intentional and to be very disciplined with time management, how we choose to spend our time. Because, that really is one of the, I don't want to call it a commodity, so maybe an asset. That's our most valuable asset is our time.
100%. Ryan, I could talk to you all day. You're a great storyteller. You're so full of information and understanding. But I did want to let me just pick your brain on a couple of things that I read in the book, so that people get a feel for. Obviously, they'll love to have you on the show again. You're super smart, very well versed. Talk to me about what is can't versus won't.
So this is another one that stems from New Jersey connections. So as part of that mastermind, Paul is friends with John Carlton,
Okay.
famous, very successful copywriter.
Yep.
And he was on a conference call with us and sharing some lessons that he's learned throughout his career in business with all of us. And he shared this lesson that when we say I can't, what we're really saying is I won't do what is necessary to, and then fill in the blank with whatever the thing is. And so, if we carry this out, I could say, I can't play soccer at an Olympic level. Well, I have all the tools required to do so, but I'm not willing to put in the work to get there. Right. Or I could say, I can't shoot a 3-pointer like Steph Curry. I can't play the guitar like Bruce Springsteen. Well, again, I have the physical tools. I have the 10 fingers. I have the 2 hands. I have the arms, right? If I did the work that they did to cultivate and develop those skills, then I could do that. So it's self-awareness, and, it's taking responsibility. It's extreme ownership, if you will, and saying it's not letting ourselves off the hook. And so when I had the gym, this became a rule at the gym, and it was permanently written on one of the walls, and it just said can't equals won't. And you were not allowed to say I can't in the gym. Mm-hmm. And when we did SEAL Fit, part of the physical stuff that we did we did no-handed burpees. And every time I tell the story, people are always like, "Oh, can you demo that for me?" I'm like, "You're going to demo it. Put your hands behind your back and do a burpee." And they're exactly what they sound like. And the rule at House of Strength was not only do you have to do 10 no-handed burpees, but everybody in the facility has to do no-handed burpees. And so my intention with that was to get everybody to understand how their actions and thoughts impacted, the ecosystem and their environment around them. And it was also sort of behavior modification therapy of sorts to start programming people to, stop thinking that way. And so, people would always say, well, what if I'm injured and I physically can't? And I'm like, well, so what you do is you say, like, you raise your hand and you say, like, I have this, and this going on, and I'm not physically able to, perform this movement right now. I need an alternative. And so immediately it just interrupts this pattern that we have. And I mean, I think you'll appreciate this with the work that you do, that, I when somebody says muscle memory, that is nails on the chalkboard to me, because muscles do not have the capacity for memory. What they're really referring to is neurological wiring. Yep. And, this is, it's a physical, like, neurological wiring can be a physical thing, like riding a bike or, swinging a golf club, but it's also mental. And we have these mental processes and stories and patterns. that are just so deeply wired that we have to find a way to interrupt them and to start to work on that behavior change. And it starts with our thought patterns and our belief systems. And so, that's why that was such a powerful lesson that I wanted to make sure was something that we really embedded into the culture of what we did at the gym.
Absolutely. Do me a favor. Let's go down that rabbit hole a little deeper. Talk to me about mindset and upgrading your operating system, because I think it falls right in line with what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think, that's it's a huge topic. I mean, I think we could do a whole podcast on that. So, I think.
Give me a takeaway.
Yeah, I think, like I was starting to kind of touch on there, we all have these belief systems. And I always make the analogy of sort of like a computer, right? And your computer has hardware, and then it runs software on that. And so if we look at our brain, our brain and the parts of the brain that you would find in anatomy class, that would be our hardware. And then the software that we run is, our thought processes and our programming and our patterning, our belief systems. And then sort of the power, right? The plugging it in, whether you're running on electricity or a battery, that's, how well do we fuel this thing? And that's where, sleep and food and all these other components come in. And so, for people like us who are really intrigued by the science of performance from a mental and a physical standpoint, that becomes a really fascinating thing to explore. And I think, we can look at that as a three-pronged approach, right? The energy systems, the hardware, there's things that we can do that improve our hardware, things that would maybe increase synapse density or, along those lines, or but the area where we usually spend at least I spend most of my time is on the software. That's the belief system. And getting people, we're not given a user's manual for, this human body that we have. And, we're not taught any of that stuff in high school or college. Right. And I think, as you mentioned earlier with your daughter, that emotional intelligence, if EQ could become part of, standard curriculum in high school, wow. What an impact we could make in young people's lives, 100%. Right? And, I think that's first and foremost, it's understanding the biology and psychology and physiology that is part of every single one of us. And then if we can understand that, then we can start to recognize what's happening to us in real time on a daily basis. And then we can remove the judgment. And so that's where we really start to get into trouble, is we start to judge ourselves for, feeling a certain way or, not having the energy. And, if we can understand that, to try to give you an example. So just last week, one of my coaching clients, was having a really bad day. And we have this thing that we talk about called lower level and higher level thinking. And, she knew, she wrote me an email and she didn't send it until the next day. And the next day she said, I didn't send it because I knew that in that moment I was in my lower level thinking. And I was like, that's a win in itself, to even be at your lowest level thinking and questioning whether or not something is right for you. And if you're on the right path in your life or not. And in that moment to still say, like, I'm not going to send this because I know I'm not me right now. Yep. I'm not the version of me. Yep. And to have just that awareness. And so this is something that's in the book a lot, and I talk about it a lot, is awareness creates choice. And so much of what we've already talked about today, just having an awareness of these things affords us the choice to continue down that current path, or the choice to, realign with values if we're off course, or, to stay aligned with values. And the rest of that sort of lesson is that, what I told her is that particular day I happened to be spending the day with some world champion competitive archers. And these guys are talking to me about the same things. And, the thing that I told her and the thing that I tell everybody I work with is, like, we think that everybody has it together. And I think you touched on this earlier, where, the more vulnerable and the more honest and authentic we can be on podcasts like this, There are a lot of people out there who want you to believe that every single day they are, on the top of their game and in the best mood and ready to crush it and, do whatever. And, I don't think that's like, I've never met a person that is 100% true for. And for the people who put that face or front on for social media, I don't think it's real. And B, if it is real, what are they running from? What are they hiding from? Because, in order to have to get to that place and show up that way on a daily basis, and maybe this isn't making sense without names, but I'm not going to name names. But I think you understand the point 100%. I'm trying to make. And so the point is just, to understand, how we're wired, what feelings are, why they're there, how they can sort of overstep their boundaries and the trouble that can get us into. Most of the decisions that we make on a daily basis are made based on feelings.
Yes.
Antonio Damasio is the researcher who has figured this out several years ago. And so this is the reason for the title of the book. And what he found is that 95% of the decisions we make are made based on how we feel in that moment. And so I always ask people, why did you wear the shirt that you're wearing right now? And most people are like, well, I woke up this morning and this is what I felt like wearing, right? And that's a great example of, a feelings-based decision. Mm-hmm. And if we are to, the bigger our goal, the longer it's going to take to realize that goal. Yep. And, let's use your daughter, for example, of, let's say that we have a 15-year-old athlete who says, I want to play sports in college. There are so many micro decisions from that initial statement at 15 to showing up as a freshman at 18 on your first day of college that have to go the right way.
Yes.
That have to be made aligned with that singular value or goal. In order for that to happen, you have to, wake up early and go to training sessions. You have to show up at practice. And it's not just showing up. It's being intentional and putting in that deep work and being consistent and eating right and, getting good grades and saying no to certain parties and saying no to certain other opportunities. And like all those little decisions have to be made along the way. And if you make those decisions in the moment based on how you feel, you're a lot more likely to go off track.
Yes.
Bring it full circle, back to our original conversation with drawing the line in the sand at Seal Fit. If I'd chosen based on my feelings, I would have sat down and quit.
Yes.
And we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Correct. 100%. My wife and I have these conversations frequently. Most people, if they put their mind to it, supported by their goals, can accomplish anything they chose to. If you said today, Ryan, my goal is to climb Mount Everest, that is the capstone. And then if you did all the work to support that, and we're talking about getting up at 3 a.m. to start climbing, and regardless of how you felt about it, you could climb Mount Everest at some, it's a long game. It may take you 5 to 7 years to acquire the skill set, the financial support, but if that is your goal and that's what you want, most people can do that. Unfortunately, I think most people are kind of lost in the soup of it. And that's when somebody like yourself comes along, writes a phenomenal book. I want to share it with the world. That happens. Value four is education, both teaching and learning. And when I learn something, I want to share it. I'm a sharer by nature. I want everybody to get something out of it. And I love the book. I didn't want to give too much away. I'm really cognizant of your time. Is there anything that you want to say to wrap up?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And a lot of times when we were trying to come up with the subtitle for the book, and the subtitle is, Master Your Mind, Accomplish Any Goal, and become a more significant human. But to me, the big part there is that second one is accomplish any goal. And I know that sounds audacious. And I know, if I go into a room and I say, I don't care what your goal is, I can help you accomplish it. That's not me trying to be boastful about me. That's just my belief in what you said, that as humans, I don't think there's anything that we cannot do. And this goes back to the can equals won't. If you're willing to put in the work
Yes.
for whatever it is that you want, you can do it. It's really that simple. Now, simple it's not easy, right? Simple is not complicated. Easy would imply lack of effort, and that's never really going to be the case for anything worthwhile. But whether you want to climb Mount Everest or start a business or write a book or, get a college scholarship, there are hundreds, thousands, millions of people who have done those things. So it's within the realm of human possibility for you to do it. It's just, are you going to do the work required? Can you keep showing up and do what is required to make it happen for you? And that's all I want for people, is to be able to, whether that means getting out of your own way or, stop doubting yourself or, changing those belief systems, but for your actions to align with those values and for you to create the life that you want for yourself. So maybe we'll leave it at that for today, and if we want to come back and do another one, we'll do that at a later point.
That sounds fantastic. You can find Ryan at he has a podcast which I listen to, and I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. The Better Human Project, highly recommend it. The book, I cannot highly recommend it enough. F Your Feelings. We left out the expletive because I think it's important, because I do have some younger folks that listen to the podcast. Not that they would be offended, but we just want to get it out to as many people as possible. I will leave all the information in the show notes that we went over today, including the talking points. As we were talking, Ryan, Uncle Mike sent me a picture of you on the beach leapfrogging over him. You can't.
The leapfrog picture
Yes.
at SealFit.
Yes, you can't make that up. That is stellar, dude. That is unbelievable.
So I believe I know one of his members, I believe his name was Lee. One of his members from the gym followed us around for the entire day and took some amazing photos. Uncle Mike might still have the link, but there were hundreds of photos,
awesome.
And they were amazing.
That is awesome.
And that was one of the ones that I had saved, and I just posted it the other day.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you like what you heard, please go to iTunes and leave a review for us. We would appreciate a 5-star review. It helps us to help others find the work that we're doing and get the word out. So if you could do that, we would be greatly appreciative. Everything that we talk about will be in the show notes, links to Ryan's podcast, links to the book, also some of the talking points that we've gone through. We'll have that in the show notes as well. So, Ryan, really thank you for your time. I really had a great time talking to you, and I am sure we will have you back on.
It's Dr. Noah, and I'm back. I suspect you love listening to this week's podcast release. Our book of the month is F Your Feelings, Master Your Mind, Accomplish Anything, and Become a More Significant Human by Ryan Munsey. We absolutely love this book and the author. A must read. The link will be in the emails, social media, and our show notes, so check it out. Our product of the month is Kavaplex, full spectrum kava oil. Kava has been used for thousands of years and is enjoyed by millions as a drink when it is prepared in the traditional way by kneading and squeezing the root powder in water for some time. Now it is available when you need it without all the time and hassle in a full spectrum oil product from True Kava called Kavaplex. I first tried this product after receiving it in a Biohacks quarterly box and fell in love with it. You can check it out at our website, and you can receive 20% off using the code capital B, capital Y, capital W, capital G, capital K, capital A, capital V, capital A, BYWG Kava. The supplement of the month for March is Stress Rebalancer. This is a specially selected blend of vitamins, adaptogens, herbs, and amino acids that help counteract the negative effects of stress on the body. By reducing cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, improving immune function, acting as antioxidants against free radical formation, improving muscle relaxation, calming the brain and reducing anxiety and mild depression and helping with better sleep. This is a one-stop shop for managing the physical impacts of stress. The 10% discount code for the month of March is Stress Relieve 10 and can be used online or at the office. If you have any questions or comments, please never hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you for your time and be awesome and never unawesome.